Thank you, my dear sister, for giving me the floor. Ladies and gentlemen from the press, allow me to provide some background or context about where we reached up to today. So let me just tell you how this process of the post-Malabo Caadp agenda started. In February 2024, that was last year, during our 37th session of the Head of State and Government Summit Assembly, the African Union Commission presented the fourth Caadp Annual Review Report to the African Head of State and Government during our 37th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly. When we submitted the biannual review report, this biannual review report is the assess of the implementation of the Caadp flagship program. So every 2 years we present a biannual review report on the indicators of the 7 commitments of Malabo. So last year, His Excellency Abiy, the Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, is the leader of this flagship program. He presented to his peer the 4th edition of the annual review report on the tracking progress on the Caadp from the 7 commitments of the Malabo Declaration. So they noted with concern that no single country was on track to meet the Malabo Declaration goals and targets by 2025. This is a 10-year action plan. This is a 10-year strategy, and 2025 was the expiring of the Malabo Declaration, but the report informed us that no country was on track to meet the ending hunger by 2025. That was one of the indicators that we most need to end hunger on the continent. So this one was not met, but it was not because member states did not make progress. They made some progress, but the benchmark to reach there was very high. It was 7.8 over 10. So no country reached that score, but they were above 5. At least 18 countries were above 5 to reach that goal that we set to end hunger. But they could not end hunger completely because the bench was high and they didn't score that indicators. So that was why, as such, they directed. With these results, the head of states and government present in the African Union Assembly, they instructed us to come out with a new post-Malabo 10 years action plan, because the Malabo is going to expire 2025. That is this year. So what we did, and they gave us the directive, African Union, as well as the Outer NEPAD, to work with partners to develop the post-Malabo Caadp agenda that will respond on the challenges and opportunities facing Africa agri-food system. In response to the directive of the head of states and government, the African Union has led the development of a new 10 years Caadp strategy and action plan 2026-2035, whose vision is to build resilient and sustainable agri-food system for healthy and prosperous Africa. Because when you look at the shocks this sector has been going through, we really need a resilient program because of the impacts of the climate change. We also want a sustainable, in order also to reach the goal of the Agenda 2063, the SDG, the global agenda. So that's why we gave ourselves, this type of approach to go more on a resilient and sustainable agri-food system, so that we can mitigate the impact of all these shocks that are coming, and to be in line with the aspiration of Agenda 2063. The design and preparation of the Caadp, of the Kampala Caadp process have resulted from remarkable collaboration among a broad spectrum of stakeholders. We had the regional economic community. We engaged with them because we said that it is a continent. So we as a continent, we have to start our policies at the continental level, and then we go at the regional level, and we go at the national level to go and do these public policies on different areas. If it's the youth, we go and do the youth in agriculture. So that is really all the framework is talking about. So we have the regional economic community, the technical working group. I'm just coming from there they also have a side event. I'm coming, that's why I delayed. I had to go and really thank them and deliver the opening of that side event. We had the experts. We have the researchers from African centers of excellence. We had the farmers organization, development partners, parliamentarian, private sector group, youth group, women in agriculture. All have played essential role in shaping the process. That is to say, the process was very, very inclusive, and after that we had they gave very collective contribution, and it was very inclusive, and we came out with six bold strategic objectives. One of them, the first one, is to accelerate the production of agriculture in agriculture. The second one is to look at the agri-industrialization. We want to process. We want to go to value chain. And the third one is, it's under the first pillar of the commitment that our head of states are going to adopt tomorrow. And the other one is the trade. We have the advantage today to have the IFCFTA, and most of the trading system on the continent, I can say 75% are from the agriculture product and agriculture service. So we have to take opportunity on that sector to create job for our youth. The second one is about that's why we say this new strategy did not came out from the Malabo Caadp principles and values. Is almost the same. We are looking about investment and financing the sustainable agri-food system. The third one, we were looking at the issue of food security and nutrition. Because in Malabo Declaration, we did not emphasize on nutrition. We're just saying food security. But now we want to be broader. That's why we're saying agri-food system. So we are talking about all the steps, to produce food and provide it to final consumer. And the sixth one, we're talking about the inclusivity. We had a very big debate since yesterday with the Ministers of Agriculture and Ministers of Agriculture about that particular pillar, because we say that inclusivity, we want it to be inclusive with the youth, the women, and marginalized people. But some delegates, some countries, they don't want to use the phrase marginalized. They said that we are all independent, nobody's marginalized. So we came out in a consensus at the end of the jointly ministerial meeting between the Ministers of Agriculture and Foreign Affairs. We say, okay, let us use the term that everybody, the most vulnerable community, all of them. So we took all that also into the account to the new strategy and action plan. And the sixth one, it's about resilience. We want to build a resilient agri-food system, because we know that because of climate change, agriculture is one of the sectors more affected by the impact of climate change. And the sixth one, it is just like accountability, but we're saying agri-food system governance. We want an agri-food system governance whereby, we know that we do accountability, we do monitoring, we do evaluation, we follow up, so that we will not fall again on the gap that we left during the Malabo Declaration. So today, since yesterday, these 3 days here in Maputo, in Kampala, it was to submit this process. I went with you with the process. To submit the process. This is an organ of African Union, so we cannot just say that it is approved. We have to respect the rules of the procedure in order to say that this is an African strategy for agri-food system. So that's why we started with our specialized technical committee. We submitted the document when it was ready. We complied the document. We submitted it on the 17th of October. The technical specialized technical committee, which is a ministerial, all the Minister of Agriculture, we produced. So here the program was 3 days. So yesterday it was the Ministers of Agriculture to review that document, see if there is a more complement before we submit to our head of state. Today we came with the Executive Council, which are the Minister of Foreign Affairs, because they are the one in charge, that they have the mandate to submit the document to the head of state for approval. So we went through the due process, and tomorrow after the adoption, that will be the continental document. I thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Commissioner. Now we go into the Q&A section. Can I just have a show of hands for those who want to ask a question? And if you are called upon to ask your question, please quickly give us your name and the news agency that you're representing, and then ask your question. So I have seen one hand at the back, and then there is another hand in the front, and a third hand still on the one side. Okay. Can we go out through our questions quickly? If you need a microphone, do we need a microphone? Okay, perhaps you can come and use this microphone at the end. One, two. Okay, the first gentleman was at the back.
Thanks very much. My name is Ben Jumbe. I work with Nation Media Group. I have two questions. The first one is it not a shame that none of the African countries was able to meet the targets? And then as AU, why don't you put up some like punishments or kind of I could say punishments for countries that fail to meet the targets that have been set? Because at the moment many African countries are relying on donors, foreign donors, to feed their own people. How do we address that? The second one is...
Thank you. Perhaps let me go to somebody else.
I said I had to. I kindly request that
yes,
you allow me to ask.
We had mentioned that let's do one question each because of the limited time. If we have time, we'll come back for a second round. Let's go to the second speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Joram Paul Sonko. I work with UBC. Now, mine is about the African Continental Free Trade Area that she mentioned. I wonder though, did you in the meetings discuss about the free entry to the markets, especially for the farmers, and is there an opportunity for them to access these markets freely or at a cheaper rate, because we do have countries that are restricting others without visas to access markets? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have the third question.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for the remarks. My name is Nelson Mandela Mohos from the New Vision. My question is kind of related to the question that was first asked on the failure to meet the target. I would love to know precisely what do the countries say were the challenges they met, that hindered them from meeting the targets, and what do they say or propose that they are going to do about it so that they can meet the target? Thank you very much.
Commissioner, it's over to you.
Thank you very much for your question. Indeed, the first question was really to meet the targets, and why didn't they meet the targets? We say that they are not on track. What are the reasons? From what we had, because this one is not just yesterday, because this was a 25 months process. So all of them participated. All of them, they gave their own how they can better improve. Most of the things we all know, apart from having also the issue of the pandemic in 2020, because by the pandemic, before we presented the reports, they were on track. But now they are not. Mostly Rwanda is always the first country, the country that is the first best perform. So the issue is the shocks also affected. The conflict also affects the production of food, because when we have conflict, and also the climate change. Because in some country we can look at Malawi, Mozambique, because of a cyclone, and Zimbabwe, the farmers lost a lot of their production because of the floods, all these kind of things. Those are also one of them. The second one, it is also the issue of they produce, but the issue of post-harvest loss. They lose a lot. 30% of what our farmers produce, it's been lost on the fields because of lack of infrastructure, rural infrastructure, storage facility. All this, we have to look at it, and we really try to, we embedded it in this new strategy that the government should give priority on rural infrastructure, electricity, this, because some of them are like, when you look at vegetable, they're very perishable products. So if you don't store it properly, you will lose it. If you don't sell it properly, access to market is another very big constraint, but because they have to create, the government have to do all this infrastructure. It's not the African Union. And you went as far to say, why can't we penalize them? The countries are sovereign. We are not police. This is not a police organization where we have to arrest them. This is intergovernmental organization to look at the development agenda of our continent. Support is just like a secretariat. Like my department, I have a mandate for agriculture, blue economy, rural development, and environment. We have other departments who have infrastructure. So each department look at the sector for this development. We also have, of course, we need peace and security and political affairs. So that one we have this department. But we are just on the policy level. In terms of implementation, this is the responsibility of the member states. And the other issue that why they are not on track, their government also are not putting the 10%, which this decision of Maputo Declaration 2003 is very clear, at least. Because yesterday we had a conversation with some countries, and they are right to complain. They say we cannot reach 10% to allocate in agriculture alone, because our GDP is very small. So these countries, like the island, the seeds, the small island countries on the continent, they brought it up. But we cannot also change a decision of head of state. So we have to get a compromise. We finished. We approved the two documents. That is the strategy and the action plan and the Kampala Declaration. It's been endorsed because it's the head of state that approved it. They endorsed it. This meeting of today. So all these issues that we know the issue is just the political will in some country is not there. The priority is not there. And the commitment that they made to do 10%, many of the countries do not. So I hope this time with this new lesson, and we know that the two recent shocks serve as a lesson for us to change the narrative. That is the dependence of importation. We import our food. 38 countries in Africa, they don't produce, they import food. And with the issue of climate change, the impact of COVID, all these markets, there was no transportation of food on the world because it was a global issue. So we had to reflect, how can we get our food sovereignty in case of these shocks? Because in Africa, we don't have a food reserve. So, because we are dependent on this market. We wanted to buy rice in Thailand. Everything was closed, They banned exportation. So those are the areas that we took it well. We also had the advantage to be to have a African common position, because the Secretary General of the UN, Mr. Guterres, he called for a summit on food system, and we worked during 1 year. We are preparing our own position, the African position, for that summit. So most of these things, these issues that I'm saying, it is there in our common position. The common position has about 43 game changing. So if our member states go through that, they can correct the narrative and the way they are doing agriculture. The second one is about the IFCFTA. It is true that how can IFCFTA be really, working, function very well when we still have issues like a visa, issues like access to market. So we are working. I know that my colleague Muchanga is even here. We are working in terms of in economic integration of our continent. So during the integration, I'm sure they will start looking at all these aspects among the member states, so that we can put those measures to eliminate the passport, so that we will be the free movement of women's and of women and the goods amongst our region. If you look at the West Africa, this thing doesn't exist. They have already got a very good integration. They have the same currency. They don't need visa to travel. They travel with this thing among that region. So we need to do it. I think SADC is trying to do also some opening in terms of acquiring visa, because all the members of SADC today, they don't show visa. I think East Africa was it. Yeah. So those things are coming because it's a new initiative, it's a new program. So we have to have time, but we are looking at all these things because we have to have a free market. We have to have good roads. So infrastructure is one of the problems, and integration is also another problem about the visa. Failure to meet the target, as I think I answered the first question, is lack of investment also. So we don't have investment, but now countries are committed really to look at this aspect, because they also want to make sure that they go beyond just agriculture. That's why we are calling it sustainable, resilient agri-food system transformation on the continent.
There was a third question. What was the third question?
It's almost the same thing.
Okay, all right.
It was because how to meet failure to meet the targets.
All right.
It's combined.
Thank you.
I talked about IFCFTA. It's the free trade I'm talking about. I said we still have the challenge of visa, and we still have a challenge of integration, but the member states are working on the integration in order to ban all these, all these obstacles that or bottleneck that impede us to go through the free trade. But we are working on it. We are doing the regulation, because if you want to trade, you need to do regulation, food safety mechanism. All this type of ecosystem has to be present and standardized to all the continent. Huh? Yeah, because it's starting.
All right, so we go into a second round of questions. And I'm going to start this one with a plea that if there are women journalists, please feel free to ask your questions. We really want to make sure that we have a 50-50 representation. All right, so on the left side, I'm still not seeing any hands going up. So let me come back to you, and I think the gentleman at the back had a second question. You had a second question. Or
okay, thank you so much. Okay, my question was related to what you've responded to. That's why I was a little bit hesitant to ask, but I may ask now that I believe that Africa's got enough food. The problem is intra-Africa trade, food trade. I mean, you've pointed out some, indicators of trying to move that direction. But how fast can we move to see that we prevent those barriers or get rid of those barriers that prevent intra-Africa food trade?
okay, and then the final question, we come back to this gentleman.
Thank you very much for the opportunity once again. You mentioned that there are about 18 countries that at least performed a little bit better than the rest. I would love to know what are those countries. And then, since the conversations have actually been dominated by issues of inclusivity, equity, including women, youth who are actually on ground doing the farming, what opportunities are likely to come out of this, 10-year strategy that, the youth, the marginalized persons can actually leverage in the long term? Thank you very much.
Let me just, if I have it. Just a moment. I will give you the countries. Okay, let me answer the first one, the inter-African trade. To say that the inter-African trade is working very well. We have the Secretariat, because it has only 2 years since it entered into force. We have the Secretariat, which is based in Accra. We have a Secretary General. We have a big structure that we are looking at all these issues of trade. So I believe that in 5 years' time, things will be okay. We wanted to kick off very early after approval, but because of COVID during 2 years, nobody was working. So we started just recently, and we are looking at all the issues of promoting the inter-African trade. That's why I said in this new strategy here, is one priority number one. Production and inter-African trade and agro-industrialization, because we don't want just to, we don't want to trade just the raw material. We want to transform this raw material to give opportunity, job opportunity to our youth, so that we can sell finished product. And when you add value, you gain more. It's more efficient than just to sell the raw material. So we are working in it. That structure is already functioning, and will let us give them time. But we believe that we are all trying to support them so that we start. We were doing the inter-African trade, but now to do a more modern, more efficient, and efficient inter-African trade. The second one, what are the countries that they are not on track, but they performed well. Like Rwanda was only the three since my 8 years of tenure in African Union. I produced four biannual review reports to take stock of the implementation of member states. So, like I said, this time the benchmark was very high, and it was Rwanda. For the best score, are the best score still, because the benchmark was 8.9. So Rwanda had 8.07 out of 10. So the small indicators maybe did not achieve, but it was okay. So then we have Morocco has 6.99 out of 10. We had Egypt 6.83. out of 10, which is good, because when you're in school, if you have this score, you pass one class to another. So, but we're just saying that we wanted really the best. We couldn't get it by when you shift the benchmark to that level, because we want it to be 10 over 10. So each edition we try to upgrade the benchmark. So we have Comoros, the island, for the most improved score. The most improved score from the various biannual review reports. Because when we started the first edition, they were really down, but they are part of these 18 countries that are really doing well. So so those are the four, because usually when we evaluate, we look at the four best. Those are the four best that they had. That they were really, they score very good. So after trying to assess at the national level, we also assess at the regional level. And at the regional level, the region that had the best score, because they follow the policy here, and they work with their member states, each region. So here, the Western African region, which is ECOWAS, special mention for best overall region performed. They had 503 out of 10, meaning that, like I say, they have the roads, they have facilities, so it's easier for them to do the inter-African trade and other indicators or commitment of our head of states. While no country was on track, 20, I even say 18, 20 member states were progressing well, which is Benin, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Cape Verde, Egypt, Eswatini, Ethiopia, the Gambia, Ghana, Kenya, Malawi, Mali, Morocco, Nigeria, Rwanda, Sierra Leone, Tanzania, Tunisia, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. So the best country, best performing countries by commitment. Okay, because we see also the commitment. Some countries is not only ending anger, but there is commitment. By commitment, we have Niger with commitment of one of the commitment number one on the commitment of the principle, because the number one was a principle of Caadp, this in the Malabo Declaration. So they had one. They did well. Eswatini on commitment number 2, enhancing investment financing in agriculture. They did well. So it's not only the food, but it is all these indicators that allow us to be food secure. And the commitment, the Ghana on commitment number 4 on halving poverty through the agriculture by 2024. Ghana did well. Rwanda on commitment number 5 on boosting intra-African trade in agricultural goods and services. And Ethiopia on commitment number 6, enhancing resilience to climate variability. And then Morocco on commitment number 7 on enhancing mutual accountability for action and result. To see that we have all the mechanism to track progress with our member states, and we have all the report. That's why this report is important, because this process became here the extraordinary summit, African Union Summit for post-Malabo Caadp agenda. It's very important, because if you have a framework, you facilitate the reform on the member state, and you facilitate them also. You support them in building their own national investment program through aligning with what we are doing here. All these indicators. That's the way we work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. That was Commissioner Her Excellency Ambassador Josefa Sacko, who is the Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and the Environment at the African Union. And she was just giving us more details and also responding to your questions on the issue of food security and improved agri-systems, as she has mentioned. So let me take this opportunity to thank you very much, members of the media and other communicators who are here. And also let me encourage those who have questions related to the African Continental Free Trade Area to please see Molalet. He's our media coordinator, so that perhaps you can have an interview with the commissioner who is responsible for that. And Her Excellency has already referred to it, that the commissioner is here. So thank you once again, all those who joined online and all those who are here live at Munyonyo Resort. Thank you. We'll meet again in another briefing. Bye-bye for now.